Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and yes, as the title very clearly suggests, I could never get into Skyward Sword. Like ever. I've always been a massive Zelda fan. Started off with Link's Awakening on the Game Boy and then moved on to, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and so on and so forth, and every single major Zelda game after that. With one major exception, Skyward Sword. I've never owned it. I've never owned it. But there's a damn good reason why. Well, that's what we're here to discuss. I've tried multiple times to get into Skyward Sword, and I've just never been able to do it. And I thought I'd, explain my experience and everything, because, with Skyward Sword HD recently being announced and everything, it's topical. More than that, it's topical. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. So, a little bit of backstory. My journey with Skyward Sword goes back a fair old way, to say the least. Because, well, I suppose it would happen around about sort of 2005, 2006, probably more likely 2006, because I had a Game Boy original, I had a SNES, I had a GBA, I had an N64, I had a GameCube, but I didn't get a Wii. I just didn't get a Wii. At first I was interested, don't get me wrong, but my brother wasn't absolutely sold on it, and we generally bought our consoles together. We never got a Wii because he wanted a 360 more, and so I got an Xbox 360 as well. We got one each in the end, which... Why? Because he went to uni or something. I played Wii games at friends' houses, certainly things like, Wii Tennis and, just generally Wii Sports and all that good stuff. And, the other Wii Party-style games, the easy ones that are quick, drop-in, drop-out, kind of, sort of friends coming around, have a whack at this kind of thing. I also remember briefly playing Sonic and the Secret Rings and thinking it was crap. Fast forward to the year 2013, I think it was 2013, not entirely sure, and I finally decided, you know what, I really want to play Super Smash Bros. Brawl, because I, dabbled in little bits here and there, but I'd never played it and owned it properly, so I thought, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna buy it, even though it's expensive, because, in 2013, I mean, it wasn't expensive, but I was a student, I was at university, I had to pay for food and rent and things, and I didn't have a lot of money, so, even just dropping £40 on a Wii, that was a big deal, and then I got Smash and everything, but, that was a big deal at the time, so I bought the Wii, and, I had good fun with Smash and everything like that. And then I sold the Wii because I wanted a Wii U. I also sold my iPad. I really wanted a Wii U. So I had the Wii U and I thought to myself, I should really give Skyward Sword a go because I'd read so much about it but never actually played it. Not even around a friend's house or anything. I'd never played it, so it was a relatively old release at this point, but it was still asking a reasonable amount of money and, when I was at university, money was tight. Thankfully, my partner at the time, who went to a different university, she had a housemate who was a lovely chap, still is, no doubt, and he had a copy of Skyward Sword, and he very kindly allowed me to borrow it. I think he was a little bit wary, because I was a good sort of a decent train ride away, and I think he was wary about never getting it back. He did. So he let me borrow Skyward Sword. I babied that thing like you wouldn't believe, and I got back, and I think I went to sleep because it was quite late. But then the next day I woke up and I finally had a go at Skyward Sword, and I launched into it, and I just couldn't get into it. I didn't get a huge way into the game by any stretch. I remember doing all the stuff in Skyloft. I think I spent longer in Skyloft than you need to, but I was exploring it, soaking in the world and everything, and I was enjoying the interactions with certain of the characters and things like that, and the art style was relatively pleasant, and then it came to, sort of diving down to the, what is it, it's not the planet below, but the ground world. You can tell I haven't played this game much. I remember going down to the surface, and it's, sort of a foresty area. Couldn't remember what it was, but there were these weird sort of bulbous things from memory that were a bit like Deku's, but not quite. Maybe, I really can't remember what they looked like. But I remember I had to go around and I had to find the entrance to this temple, and for the life of me, I just could not find the entrance. And I could have looked up a walkthrough or something like that, but by this point, I'd kind of already thought to myself, I'm not feeling this. Whether it's because I didn't own a Wii whilst I was growing up, or generally the games that I was interested in generally were maybe a little bit more sort of broad and sort of more traditional games like Super Mario Galaxy and things like that, I never got along with the Waggle controls, and I've never liked the Wii Remote. I'm sorry. I've never liked it. It always felt awkward in the hand and a little bit bulky and not really comfortable whichever way you used it. A little bit like a Joy-Con, but to a ridiculous degree. Like, it was too big, too chunky, holding it on its side was awful. I never understood how anyone could do that. And I've played Metroid Other M. Even playing Twilight Princess on the Wii. Yes, I actually played Twilight Princess to completion on a Wii that was owned by my mum's work at the time. I would go there and I'd like help them out with stuff. They had like these sort of activities for children, you know, sort of usually disadvantaged children. And they would have the Wii there and there'd often be some downtime and I would play Twilight Princess. And I think I even took it home at one point and completed Twilight Princess. That was how I originally played Twilight Princess. But even playing that, I never quite got the hang of it. I always found myself holding the controllers like this. It was awkward. I never relaxed or anything because often you'd have to point at the screen and it was kind of, it was a small problem, I know, but you know, when you're just used to just going like this and just holding a controller like you used to, that's more of a big deal. It's still not a big deal, but it's more of a big deal. It was the same thing with Metroid Prime 3. I have the game, it's up there. I'll prove it. But there was just something about using the Waggle controls and generally using the Wii Remote and Nunchuck that I never liked. I don't know whether maybe it forced my wrist to pronate a little bit more in a different way that I was used to, but I never got along with it. I played Super Mario Galaxy to completion, but you know what? I don't think of it as highly as like Super Mario 64. I objectively know it's better than Sunshine, but in my head it's still below them because of the Wii Remote. I never liked the fact that you had to shake it to do stuff. It's like, just let me press a button! And if you didn't know, Skyward Sword doubles down on everything like that. You have the Wii Motion Plus, so it's more like a one-to-one thing. So Link is nearly always awkwardly walking around. You know, usually I can't quite... How am I going to do this? He's just like... He never looks relaxed. He's always got his arms out like this. Like, the shield arm's all right, but the sword arm's always like... And then you get into combat with the enemies and you have to, you know, slice them in a particular direction and things like that. And I can understand what they were going for. I 100% can. It was to make the game more immersive and to make you feel like you were the, you know, the hero of time or the hero of Skyloft, whatever the hell he's called in this one. You're the one holding the sword. You're doing all this and they're really, you know, sort of proving, look at how good our basic gyroscope and accelerometer is. And for many people, I'm sure it was immersive, but for me, it made me so much more consciously aware of my movements in the real world. It actually took me out of the game, rather than just, you know, sort of letting myself soak in and sort of, you know, having actions assigned to buttons and things like that. What I've been doing my entire life, all of a sudden, I had to physically move in an unnatural way with a controller that was split, that was still relatively alien to me. I mean, it's not that bad, but it was relatively alien. And it was connected by a cord that wasn't quite long enough, so I couldn't even properly relax with it. And if I tried, there was this cable running across me, and it was just weird. And then the game required me to make movements that felt completely unnatural. They felt, you know, if I was standing up and, you know, actually in the actual position, maybe I should have done that, I don't know. But if I was doing that, then maybe. But as it was, I have to play Skyward Sword like this, and, you know, how do you hold the sword naturally? You have to kind of hold it down, but then you often pull on the cord, and so it just didn't work for me. It just completely ruined the immersion. Any kind of immersion that I would have had was completely removed by the controller and by the controls, and that's what ruined it for me. It's what made me say, you know what, I can't deal with this. It frustrated me no end. And what's more, I think, is that what has been proved with the release, well, it's not even out yet. What has been proved by the announcement and the existence of Skyward Sword HD, which now just has button controls as well. You can still use the motion and everything if you want, and if you like that, go for it, dude. More power to you. But the fact that the button controls exist shows that it was not necessary, and they hung up this game on so many factors and saying, look, it's like you're really there. But if that worked for you, I'm thrilled to bits. But it never worked for me. It dragged me out of the game, kicking and screaming. I wanted to play it, I wanted to get involved in the game, but the controller was telling me no. It was reminding me that I was holding a game controller, that I was holding this piece of plastic and I was waving around like a silly Billy trying to do basic actions. The actions, I swear, weren't accurate either. I remember specifically like doing horizontal slices and things like that, you know, in a natural way. I wouldn't, you know, sort of bring it up and then horizontal swipe or vertical swipe or anything like that. You know, I'd be relaxed and then I'd go like that. But apparently that's going up too much. That's an up swipe, and you end up bouncing off the enemy, and the thingy, big planty thing with the split mouth, I still don't understand that. And then it'd laugh at you, and your housemates would come bursting in, and they'd start laughing as well, and then they'd eat all your soup. I've heard, I've read, I've seen so many great things about Skyward Sword. I know it's generally more divisive, and I think that could well be down to the controls, but, you know, it's also linear and stuff like that. But even then, I still really want to give this game another go. I have tried subsequently, I've tried in various different forms, and I've never been able to like lock it down and actually enjoy it. It's just like this barrier, this huge barrier of entry that I'm just not willing to pay. Super Mario Galaxy, Metroid Prime 3, Twilight Princess, they all had waggle controls in them, but they were far less prevalent. And even then, I had an issue with it. I suppose I didn't really have a hope in hell. But despite saying every single word that I just said, do you know what I'm gonna try out when I first get it? I'm gonna try out the motion controls. I think over the years, my views have mellowed slightly, and I've generally become more accepting of motion controls, and certainly in more sort of modern applications, things like motion aiming in Splatoon, and even like the motion controls in ARMS. I still don't play ARMS with a Pro controller. I swear everyone else on the planet does. I'm still there with two Joy-Con going wah, 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 wah. It's possible that that's due to the implementation in ARMS itself, but overall I think generally I'm just more okay with it. I'm still not, you know, 100% fine with it, but I'd still like to give it a go, and the fact that it is coming to Switch now is a massive blessing, you know, and I know there's probably plenty of people saying, well, Alex, if you wanted to give it a try again, why didn't you just buy it on the Wii and then play it there? To them I say, I already have enough of a backlog. Do I think that Skyward Sword HD is going to be my new favourite Zelda game? Probably not, but you know what? I think it's about time that I finally played it, I finally finished it, and I finally enjoyed it. Do you have a story about Skyward Sword? Do you think the waggle controls are actually the best thing in the world ever, and you can't imagine playing Skyward Sword with button controls? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you slice that subscribe button horizontally? I said horizontally, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. Oh, and if anyone's wondering how I got the footage, John.